What mysterious force has allowed a nation, situated at the crossroads of civilizations, to survive millennia of conquests, revolutions, and transformations, while maintaining a unique identity that still resonates in the modern world? This is the captivating story of a land that, from the dawn of humanity, has been the stage for colossal empires, the home of spiritual visionaries, and the epicenter of battles that shaped the course of history. It is the chronicle of how a region in the heart of Asia, once known as Persia, transformed into modern-day Iran, a process spanning over 3,000 years of resilience, innovation, and cultural synthesis. This narrative is not merely about a change of name, but about an identity forged in the crucible of invasions, revolutions, and dialogues between worlds. Picture a vast plateau flanked by towering mountain ranges, crisscrossed by scorching deserts, and bordered by seas that connect continents. Here, in this landscape of contrasts, lies the cradle of one of history's most influential civilizations. To understand its grandeur, we must journey back to a time long before the name Persia echoed through the annals of history, to an era when ancient peoples began to shape an immortal legacy. The dawn of a civilization. By the 2nd millennium BCE, the Iranian plateau was already a vibrant mosaic of cultures. The Elamites, one of the region's earliest known civilizations, built majestic cities like Susa, where they developed a primitive writing system that left enduring marks on history. Their steppe temples, akin to Mesopotamian ziggurats, dominated the skyline, and their artisans crafted objects of beauty that still astonish archaeologists today. Alongside the Elamites, nomadic tribes roamed the steppes, merchants crossed deserts with caravans laden with spices and silks, and farmers cultivated oases in arid lands. This cultural crucible set the stage for a transformation that would alter the region's destiny. Around 1500 BCE, waves of Indo-European peoples began arriving from the northern steppes. These migrants, known as Indo-Iranians, were not destructive invaders but shepherds and farmers who brought with them languages and traditions that would resonate through the centuries. Their words for father and mother, padar and mater, were strikingly similar to those in Latin and, consequently, to many modern languages. This linguistic kinship was no coincidence. The Indo-Iranians were part of a vast linguistic family that stretched from Europe to the Indian subcontinent. Over time, these peoples settled across the plateau, splitting into various tribes. Some migrated eastward to what is now India and Afghanistan, while others established themselves in the central plateau, giving rise to two groups that would shape history: the Medes, in the northwestern mountains, and the Persians, in the southern lands, in a region they called Parsa, from which the name Persia would later derive. These newcomers brought more than languages and customs. They introduced a spiritual worldview that would transform human thought. They worshipped a supreme god, Ahura Mazda, the wise lord, and followed the teachings of a legendary prophet, Zoroaster, or Zarathustra in Greek. Zoroastrianism, the religion he preached, introduced revolutionary ideas: the cosmic struggle between good and evil, the free will to choose between them, and the promise of a final judgment where justice would prevail. These concepts, familiar to us today, were radically new 3,000 years ago and left a profound legacy, influencing later religions such as Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The rise of the Medes. While the Persians lived as semi-nomadic shepherds in the southern lands, the Medes became the first to consolidate significant power on the Iranian plateau. Their story, though often overshadowed by the later glory of the Persians, is a testament to their political and military ingenuity. The Medes were not only skilled warriors but also astute diplomats. In the 7th century BCE, when the Assyrian Empire dominated the Middle East with a blend of efficient bureaucracy and relentless terror, the Medes forged a strategic alliance with the Babylonians. In 612 BCE, this coalition achieved the unthinkable. They defeated the Assyrians and destroyed their capital, Nineveh, erasing their empire from the map. With this victory, the Medes became the lords of a vast territory stretching from Anatolia to Mesopotamia. Their capital, Ecbatana, modern-day Hamadan, transformed into a hub of trade and culture, where Iranian traditions blended with Mesopotamian influences. The Medes innovated by developing a system of governance based on satrapies, provinces administered by local governors who swore loyalty to the central king. This model, which combined centralized control with regional autonomy, would later be perfected by the Persians and become a cornerstone of their imperial success. The birth of the Persian Empire. While the Medes built their empire, the Persians, in the region of Parsa, led a humbler existence, governed by petty kings who paid tribute to their northern neighbors. However, the fate of the Persians changed with the rise to the throne of a young prince named Cyrus, who would go down in history as Cyrus the Great. In 550 BCE, Cyrus led a rebellion against the Median king Astyages, his own father-in-law, and through a series of brilliant campaigns, unified the Medes and Persians under his crown. But what distinguished Cyrus was not just his military genius but his political vision. Instead of crushing the Medes, he integrated them into his new empire, respecting their traditions and granting them positions of power. This decision laid the foundation for an empire built not on oppression but on collaboration. The pinnacle of Cyrus's career came in 539 BCE, when his armies conquered Babylon, the wealthiest and most prestigious city of the ancient world. Rather than sacking it, Cyrus presented himself as a liberator. According to the Cyrus Cylinder, a historical document preserved in the British Museum, he proclaimed that he had been chosen by Marduk, the Babylonian god, to restore order. He allowed the Babylonians to preserve their religion and customs, restored their temples, and freed exiled peoples, including the Jews, whom he funded to rebuild their temple in Jerusalem. This policy of tolerance was repeated in every conquest, from Lydia to Egypt, earning the loyalty of subject peoples. Cyrus was not only a conqueror but also an administrative innovator. He divided his empire into satrapies, governed by satraps who enjoyed autonomy but answered to the king. He built the Royal Road, a 2,500-kilometer highway connecting Susa to Sardis, enabling messengers to travel at unprecedented speeds. In less than 3 decades, Cyrus and his successors created the largest empire the world had ever seen, stretching from the Indus River to the Aegean Sea and uniting nearly half of the world's population under a single government. This empire was sustained not by fear but by a system that promoted trade, cultural diversity, and cooperation. The era of Darius the Great. Cyrus's death in 530 BCE, during a campaign on the eastern frontiers, could have marked the end of this imperial dream. However, the system he left behind proved stronger than any individual leader. After a succession crisis, Darius I, known as Darius the Great, ascended the throne in 522 BCE. His 36-year reign would bring the Persian Empire to its zenith. Darius reorganized the satrapies, creating 20 provinces with governors, generals, and treasurers who monitored each other to prevent rebellions. He introduced a tribute system based on the wealth of each region: gold from India, incense from Arabia, ivory from Ethiopia. He also created the daric, a gold coin that facilitated international trade. Darius was a master of infrastructure. He expanded the Royal Road and built a postal system that allowed messages to travel thousands of kilometers in days. But his greatest legacy was Persepolis, a monumental city that symbolized Persian grandeur. Its reliefs depict representatives of all the empire's peoples: Scythians, Indians, Greeks, Egyptians, bringing tributes to the king, not as humiliated subjects but as partners in a global order. Persepolis was not just a capital. It was a celebration of diversity as a source of strength. The clash with Greece. The Persian Empire might have remained an Asian power, but its westward expansion led to a conflict with the Greek city-states, whose vision of freedom and democracy contrasted with the Persian imperial model. In 499 BCE, the Greek cities of Anatolia, under Persian rule, rebelled, supported by Athens. Darius responded by demanding Greece's submission, but Athens and Sparta defied his demands, sparking the Persian Wars. In 490 BCE, the Persians landed at Marathon but were defeated by the Athenians in a battle that became legendary. 10 years later, Xerxes I, Darius's son, launched a massive invasion. His army, described by the Greeks as immense, crossed the Hellespont on a bridge of boats and advanced into Greece. At Thermopylae, 300 Spartans led by Leonidas resisted heroically, buying time for the Greeks. Although Xerxes occupied Athens, the Greek naval victory at Salamis and the land defeat at Plataea in 479 BCE forced the Persians to retreat. The conquest of Alexander the Great. The Persian Empire survived the Persian Wars, but in the 4th century BCE, it faced a new threat: Alexander of Macedon. In 334 BCE, Alexander crossed the Hellespont with a small but disciplined army. His victories at Granicus, Issus, and Gaugamela, 331 BCE, shattered Persian power. However, Alexander did not seek to destroy Persian civilization but to embrace it. He proclaimed himself the successor of the Achaemenid kings, adopted Persian customs, and promoted marriages between his generals and Persian nobles. His vision of a multicultural empire was revolutionary, but his death in 323 BCE left his dream unfinished. The Parthian and Sasanian revival. After Alexander's death, his generals divided his empire, and Persia fell under Seleucid rule. However, in the 3rd century BCE, the Parthians, a nomadic tribe from the northeast, began to expand. Under Arsaces I, the Parthians conquered Mesopotamia and established an empire that rivaled Rome. Their mounted archers, famous for the Parthian shot, defeated the Romans at Carrhae, 53 BCE. The Parthians blended Iranian, Hellenistic, and Mesopotamian traditions, maintaining the Achaemenid legacy of religious tolerance. In the 3rd century CE, the Parthians were replaced by the Sasanians, a dynasty from Fars that presented itself as the heir to the Achaemenids. Ardashir I, their founder, established Zoroastrianism as the state religion, but the Sasanians were also innovators. Under Khosrow I, 531 to 579 CE, the empire reached its cultural zenith. The Academy of Gunshaper became a global center of learning, preserving Greek texts and advancing medicine, astronomy, and philosophy. The Sasanians developed a formidable armored cavalry and an efficient bureaucracy that rivaled Byzantium's. The Arab conquest and Islamization. In 651 CE, the Sasanian Empire fell to the Muslim Arabs after the Battle of Qadisiyah. However, the conquest did not erase Persian identity. Instead, it initiated a unique cultural synthesis. The Persians adopted Islam gradually but transformed the new religion. Philosophers like Avicenna, scientists like al-Biruni, and poets like Rumi, all Persians, left an indelible mark on Islamic civilization. In the 16th century, the Safavids made Shurism the official religion, consolidating a distinct Iranian identity. From Persia to Iran. The official shift from Persia to Iran occurred in 1935, when Reza Shah Pahlavi requested that the international community use the historical name Iran, derived from Aryanam, land of the Aryans. This change aimed to emphasize continuity with the pre-Islamic past and modernize the country's image. However, Iran's true transformation lies in its ability to synthesize diverse influences: Zoroastrianism, Islam, pre-Islamic traditions, and modernity. Today, Iran is a tapestry of identities. It is the heir to Cyrus and Darius, but also to the Shiite imams. Its literature resonates with the verses of Hafez and the epics of Ferdowsi, while its politics reflect both Persian ideals of justice and Islamic principles. The question of when Persia became Iran has no simple answer, for Iran is the result of an ongoing metamorphosis, a nation that has reinvented itself without losing its essence. Its story is not just that of a country but of an idea, the resilience of a culture that, across centuries, has woven an eternal legacy.